Hello, everybody, and welcome to Untold. In today's episode, we have Eric Spiegel. Eric is the Assistant Director of Life Design for Computer Science and other majors in Johns Hopkins University. Beyond his current job as a career advisor, he carries over 20 years in the world of tech. And in today's conversation, we discussed how to build a career when AI is rewriting the rules, what younger people should prioritize in a difficult job market, and much more. It's important to highlight that Eric's comments are his own and do not represent any stance or opinions from his employer. With that said, this was a great episode and I hope you enjoy it. Are master's degrees relevant in the modern day and age, considering AI advancements?
Master's degrees are still relevant. And I get the same question about higher education in general because people ask, well, if I can just go to ChatGPT or Claude and I can get all my questions answered. And plus, there's a lot of classes that are available online. Stanford, Harvard, MIT, they make a lot of their classes available online. Of course, you don't get a degree, but there's a lot of ways to get some free education. It's still important, both for higher ed and masters. For one thing, you are immediately establishing a new network. Once you join and start taking classes, all of a sudden, if you're going to I don't know, where I'm working right now is Johns Hopkins University. And if you come to Johns Hopkins, immediately you have access to the Johns Hopkins network. So with the Johns Hopkins network, all of a sudden you have all these alumni working at all these amazing places. And there's a better chance that those alumni are going to agree to work with a Hopkins undergraduate or master students than someone that's just cold calling them that has no relationship to them. Does that make sense?
Makes complete sense. I mean, and it draws to this idea of human relationships, human interaction, that I think is something that through the internet era has lost a lot of value or relevance in many senses. People more and more live digitally. But for some reason, and it's a feeling, I don't have any data to validate this. I believe this new AI wave is going to do something that it's going to have some groups of people even more marginalized into the technologies, but other groups of people who are going to double down on human interaction. Mm, And I agree with you. I think the value of education, higher education, going to university, even on undergrad level, is mostly learning how to interact with other human beings.
That's right. That's right. And just following up on the master's question, because I know a lot of students at Hopkins that are undergraduates and are international students, and they haven't been able to find something yet. So their backup plan is to take a master's degree because it extends their visa and they're able to stay in the country. So it's sometimes it's a necessity, but you shouldn't think of it as a hiding place, somewhere where you say, okay, I'm just going to hang out here for a year or two and maybe the market will get better. Uh, Nobody knows what's going to happen to the market for sure and the impact that AI is going to have. There's a lot of prognosticators out there, but you know, if you're going to go to grad school, go for something you're passionate about, something that is going to land you somewhere and help you develop skills that are going to be useful in this agentic era.
100%. I mean, it's something that I had in mind when I was graduating my own degree, which was I saw many of my undergrad peers that were graduating alongside me. I have the fortune that I got my return offer onto my current job early on in my last senior year of college, which great privilege. It took away a lot of the stress and anxiety that I feel like a lot of my peers went through. But a lot of them, because they couldn't find anything, their default was, okay, I'm going to do a master's degree, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I thought from an outsider's perspective, of course, it's easier to look at things from the outside and have opinions of on them without having to necessarily be in their situation. But my immediate thought was, wow, these people are having trouble entering the job market now. Who knows how difficult it's going to be in a year?
Hmm.
And I don't know how it's in the US. In Europe, at least, I feel like it's even harder now than a year ago to find jobs.
Well, okay, first I see things anecdotally because I help students, right? That's part of my job as a career advisor. And I'm mainly working with students in computer science and computer engineering, but I also work with students in marketing and industrial engineering. Um, but I am finding that about 80% of them are finding something. The 20% that are not, they're not doing it, they're not approaching their job search in the most practical manner. They're still doing things the old way. And when I say the old way, I mean cold applying. They may think they're smart because they think, the employers are using an applicant tracking system that's probably using AI algorithms to weed me out. So I'm going to use AI to figure out the best way to apply. I'm going to make my resume look good. I'm going to make my cover letter look good. And I'm going to use one of these tools to automatically apply to jobs that meet my criteria. So I'm going to get 1,000 applications out. And that is the wrong way to do it. Volume is not going to land you a job. It's establishing some sort of connection through networking. And we can get more into networking because that is what I really stress with my students. And it's, it can be a scary word, especially for a college student that feels like they don't really have a network. But the networking is going to be the key. But let me throw a stat at you. So the World Economic Forum says by 2030, there will be 170 million jobs that are created and 92 million that are lost based on AI impact to the marketplace. That's a net of 78 million. But the challenge is, the way Gartner's looking at it is that there's going to be a breakdown of millions of careers first, especially things like customer service. It's already impacting software engineering. The AI model is getting very good at doing these types of jobs, but over time, there's going to be more jobs that are going to be available, jobs that we don't even know what they are yet. Just like cloud computing didn't exist before AWS invented it in the mid 2000s. And all of a sudden, you have all these new jobs around cloud computing. There's going to be some similar factors driving new job growth because of that.
Yeah, in economics, we study this. It's the creative destruction. It's a process of creative destruction, and
That's correct.
uh, so I mean, you've seen it all throughout history. In the Industrial Revolution, there was a lot of job displacement from people that lost their jobs because there was these new machines doing all of the work, but also a lot of other jobs created and a lot of new industries all of a sudden were invented. And I think we're in a new era of that happening. But it's scary because we hear this rhetoric from many people that are developing these technologies that kind of veers us towards thinking that AI will be this all-encompassing tool which will take over any task that humans can take on, right? And
Yes.
I don't know what I believe. I don't know if I believe that there's going to be definitely, I think there's going to be new jobs created in the medium term and short term, but in the long term, are we at risk of, if the AGI technology is developed, all jobs being stripped away and humanity living on a day-to-day basis without really having to worry about anything like a job?
Yeah. Isn't that the $1 million question? $1 million probably not enough anymore. Probably has to be a billion. Uh,
Trillion.
exactly. Well, you have a new trillionaire with SpaceX IPO. So yeah,
Yeah,
uh,
that is crazy.
it is very crazy. So the reason why a lot of people struggle with this is because you're getting different messages from different people in the media and the technology leaders. Um, the CEO of Anthropic, Dario Amodei, he's the one that said AI could wipe out up to half of entry-level jobs within a few years. But then you have NVIDIA's CEO, Jensen. I think his last name is pronounced Huang.
Huang.
Is
Yeah.
it Huang? Okay, thank you. But you know what? Everyone just calls him Jensen. uh, he argues productivity gains create more hiring, not less. So you hear these different things, and actually, there's been a big push from a lot of the investors in various AI companies in the media, writing articles, doing LinkedIn posts, and basically saying, no, 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 there's going to be a ton of jobs that are created from this, because they realize their initial rhetoric of, hey, AGI is pretty much going to do everything, that it's scaring the crap out of people. And already entry level jobs are starting to drop. So they're changing their rhetoric and they're turning it up to be, you know what? Don't worry about it. It's all going to work out. And I think, as with anything, Nico, it's probably falls somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, 100%. And also, from the standpoint of these investors and operators in the world of AI, it's not even smart to call these claims of AGI is going to change the world, is going to replace all jobs, because who knows when AGI is going to be developed. There's insights into maybe it might not even be through LLMs that we're going to get to AGI. Who even knows if anything like artificial general intelligence is possible? Uh, the human brain is extremely complex. No one, not even neuroscientists who have been studying the human brain for centuries, understand it. Now you're gonna tell me that someone in a completely different field of knowledge is gonna manage to do it by understanding language. It's a very hard sell there. So in the end, I agree with you. No one really knows, and I guess we'll find out maybe in 5 years, maybe in 20 years, what's the real power of this artificial general intelligence technology, if we ever do get there.
Yeah. And we don't know if that's going to happen. And even if we can afford it, right? Because now the costs are starting to come out and be more clear. You start to hear the term token maxing. Like, how do I get the most out of the tokens, which is how the AI companies keep track of how much you're using of their system. And I think it was Uber's CFO, maybe it was the CEO, that came out and said, you know what, we're going to back off of AI a little bit because we're not seeing the return on investment from the costs that are going into this.
Yeah, I heard about this. It was I cannot remember the exact figure, but it was, I think they burned through their entire 2026 budget in 4 months.
Yeah.
Uh,
And it's not just
yeah,
Uber. There are multiple companies that have come out. The public companies have to answer to their shareholders. And not everyone is big tech where you can get away with a lot of losses as you're ramping up something new. If you're, I don't know, if you're a Fortune 500 manufacturing company or an insurance company, you're going to be much more risk adverse and you're going to look at the cost very closely.
that's something that I had never thought about, which is these tech companies are full into experimenting with these new technologies because they're able to afford it. They're expected to not even give dividends back to the investors, and they get to reinvest much of their profits into the business.
That's right.
Whilst other sectors are going to have to take this AI wave much more conservatively and look at it in a much more, okay, are we sure this is going to work? If so, let's implement it.
Yeah.
And when we get there, likely, and this comes to what you were saying a bit before, it might be that the younger generations are the right people to implement this transition into AI heavy organizations.
That is true. Here's the challenge. It's kind of like the chicken and the egg type of thing. Uh, you know, you need to invest in the younger generation. When I say you, I mean the companies. They need to invest in the younger generation to have future leadership. But they are currently not hiring as many entry level people. A lot of them are using the excuse, I'll call it an excuse. They're saying that it's because of AI. The AI is going to do more. It's already doing more. So we're not going to need as many people. And we're boosting our profits by reducing our human capital costs. And we're going to invest more in AI. And that's okay for a period of time. But then you lose your talent pipeline. So even if you can do more with less, you're still going to need, unless the prophecies of AGI come true and there's no human workers and everything's just running by itself, which I don't think is going to happen. And maybe in 100 years it will, I don't know. But for now, you're going to still need a lot of people to work in your company, especially leading it and making decisions, be accountable to shareholders or investors. So I think that there's going to be a lot of interesting decisions from leadership teams trying to figure out, should we hire entry level people anyway, even though the AI can do a lot of what they're doing, because we need to put them through some sort of program that trains them so that we have future leaders. And I'll just give you one example. I was at a neighborhood barbecue this past weekend, and one of my neighbors works for a high net worth wealth management company, and they typically hire 11 interns every year. So it's not a huge company. I don't know how many employees they have, but they hire 11 interns, and that is their pipeline to new partners within the company. And now those interns are not doing what they used to be doing because the different AI tools can do it.
Hmm.
So they're trying to make that decision next year. Are we going to hire 11 interns again? We could probably get away with 6. But is that going to hurt us in the long run? And they don't have the answer yet. What he did say was they have already cut off their offshoring that they were doing in India, that they find that they can manage that locally using AI agents instead of offshoring. And his thought was, I would never invest in an offshoring consulting firm right now because they're going to get hurt pretty quickly.
That's, I mean, I see it firsthand. We just got a batch of interns 2 days ago, yesterday actually, the new cohort. And I was an intern in the company I work for uh, 2 years ago. We were 28, and this year we have 12 in my office. There's more in other offices, but as a whole, the program got reduced by around 50%. And yeah, in the end, it's what you say. But is there a likelihood that organization as a whole are going to become leaner? So I agree that in the end, you're always going to need leaders. You're always going to need a face to put in the project, someone that leads it, especially because I think, and this is an idea that I had recently, I think what AI is allowing many companies to do is shifting from an operator based talent pool to an idea based talent pool.
Mm.
So you had this, and before you had this one manager who had maybe the ideas or steered the team, and then a lot of operators who would execute. Little by little, it's going to be more people that have the ideas sending AI or steering AI into executing them, right? Um, and at this point, the biggest bottleneck stops being how to build it, but what do you build? And what do you
Critical
do?
thinking.
Yes.
Yes,
And
I
that's what
hear
AI
that a
cannot do.
lot. Yeah, I hear a lot from the recruiters that we work with about they're looking for students who show evidence of critical thinking without having to rely on AI. So the question for students is, how do you show these things? It's hard to show critical thinking on a resume. You need to show it through projects that you do. And that's something that I am really harping on with our students is you are not getting everything you need from just your classwork. And until you have your first internship, and even as you go forward beyond that, you need to be building out independent projects that show not only that you can uh, critical think for yourself, but also how you use AI in that process. Because most companies are going to say, yes, I want you to use every tool at your disposal when you're doing your job with us. So I need to see that you know how to balance, like, where do you make those decisions? Because ultimately, what you deliver, you're accountable for it. If you deliver software and it brings down the production system, Claude code is not going to get fired. You're going to get fired. So you have to own it. You need to understand it. And you need to bring those critical thinking skills to bear.
Yeah, it's important, and it's difficult to differentiate yourself in that world. But what would you suggest young people do other than projects? Uh, Something that I just thought about, and a crazy idea would be maybe what they should do is, instead of hiring less, hiring more. Just be much more choosy on who they let through from an internship, right? I don't know if it makes sense. You get to see a lot more, like a bigger roster of people, and then you choose for the ones that show the most human skills that qualify for the type of leader you would want to have in the long term, right?
Yep. That is what companies like IBM are doing, where they have said they're doubling down on early career people because from their perspective, and I think you asked this a little bit earlier, the Gen Z folks that they're hiring, they are the most comfortable with AI. They're the ones that are starting off using it. Somebody that has 20 plus years experience in the business, they're going to have to relearn how to use it because they were brought up doing things a different way. Uh, the challenge is that the companies want both at the same time. Like, I want to hire a Gen Z person that has 20 years of experience. And you
Yeah.
see that in the job descriptions. Like, it says entry level, and then they have all these leadership types of requirements, and they're trying to have their cake and eat it too, and they're going to get burned with that.
Yeah, it's difficult. And I think it's difficult to have great hires. I think one of the areas of business that I'm most concerned about is, I think a big part of the jobs come from those small and medium businesses,
Yeah.
right? And what concerns me there is, for a business owner that maybe employs 5 people and just lost someone because they decided to move on to a different part of their career. If it's an entry level position that they're looking to hire, it might be more interesting to just figure out a way to utilize AI to replace that person, because like hiring a good employee is not easy, and AI can do a pretty reliable job in many ways. And I don't know, I thought about this recently, and I think maybe in the US is not as big of a deal as here, because if you in the US, if you hire someone, you can fire them just as quickly.
That is
But
true.
in Europe, you have a lot of
Yeah.
different laws that prevent companies from firing people easily. So I could imagine, on my own, like in my own podcast, right now I can do all of it on my own, but eventually, if it starts to grow a lot and continues to grow, I might eventually need a full-time editor. I might eventually need someone that helps me with my different social media posts. And at that point, it's very essential to hire the right person. But if AI is good enough at that point, I might just have my AI agents doing all of that top things for me. And it's two jobs that never really even went into the market, you know?
Yeah. There's definitely going to be some of that. But I think a lot of small to medium sized business owners, they can be intimidated by the technology. And I, I, I play around with it plenty and I still get frustrated with it. It doesn't always perform as you think it's going to perform, as
I'm aware.
advertised. So I think there's going to be a big opportunity for AI consultants, like AI business consultants, how to operationalize AI in your small business. I think that that could be a huge bit. And you think, oh, well, I'll just ask Claude and it'll tell me how to do it, or ChatGPT. But executing on it is a whole different thing. And being able to have a conversation with someone that has experience doing it, there's just something different that comes out of that. Number one, you build a relationship with somebody. Um, you figure out what it is that works well for them, doesn't work well for them, and you can. So this is where I have a hard time, because I can hear someone else in the back of the room going, no, AI can do all of that. You don't need a person for that. And there's something intangible about working with a human that makes it more fun. Um, it can be more rewarding, and a human brings something different. So the AI is giving you the uh, an amalgam of all the experiences that it has in the model, what the model's trained on, and it's giving you what it thinks is best based on the best of the best of the best of everything. And it kind of can get, what's the word I'm looking for? Um, you lose the soul of what it was that you were trying to accomplish, and you might lose sight of it. And I'm still trying to figure out the best way to describe that. What do you think?
So actually, this is super interesting, and I was listening the other day to this podcast on which they were kind of debating when one should use AI, and they had this claim, which I know is not factually correct because that's not exactly how they train AI models. But they said you shouldn't use AI if you think you're better than 50% of the population, like you're above the average of the population for a certain task, right? So what they said is these big LLMs, they take all of the information, they cramp it together, and they give you the most average answer, right? Um,
Yeah.
that's not factually correct because in the end, there's some data cleanup
Yeah.
going in the
Right.
background. They're kind of choosing the most reliable sources. I think AI is much more intelligent than the average anything in an industry, right?
Yeah.
But I do think that if AI was critical and if AI had the type of abilities that a human being like yourself, like me, like the people around us had, with the amount of information it has, it would be able to bring a lot of new ideas of and information by just connecting dots that we would be able to connect if we were able to process that amount of information, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so it's just not critical.
Well, I think there's something watered down in what it gives you. And it's not that it's not correct, and it's not that it's not amazing sometimes. I mean, the fact that you can load up a 50-page document and say, provide me a summary, you press enter, and boom, it starts going.
Seconds.
It, not even seconds. The other day, I put in a screenshot of something. I said, tell me about what you see in here. And immediately it gave me a great explanation of what it saw. It's like magic. I'm still, we can do some conspiracy theories here. I don't know who discovered this alien technology. That's what I want to know. Where did this come from? Because you talk to some of the researchers, and they say we don't even completely understand how this all works all the time.
And it comes from these chips that a company was developing for
For
gaming,
video
and
games.
and the guys still don't even know why their chips are so good to train these models
Yeah.
and perform inference. So it's this thing that no one really fully understands. Of course,
Yeah.
there's people that understand it much more than I do, at least. But it's still a black box. You put
Yeah.
things into it, and you don't know what's gonna come out. Very unpredictable. And in that sense, it's a bit scary because it works to some extent as a human brain. Uh, a human brain is a black box. You have a lot of inputs. You have a lot of things
Yeah.
that change the way you think, and over time, you end up producing things that are wonderful. Like I think a human brain is really wonderful. But I do agree with you that the things we get from these models are inhumane. They're not giving us. It's very easy to identify. It's
Yeah.
still very easy for the
I
trained eye. It's
see it
still
all
very
the
easy to
time.
identify an AI made song, an
Yeah.
AI made image, an AI made text, and it's almost infuriating to see LinkedIn everywhere.
It's
It's AI
slop.
now. Yeah, it's the AI slop
Yeah.
everywhere.
All the comments. When I read, I'll see someone do a really good post. Oh, let me read the comments. And the comments say, to be honest, or if I'm going to be honest with you, or,
It's not this. It's this.
yes,
the
that's
cla-
right. There's a pattern that it follows because really when it comes down to it, it is all about patterns. And that's somehow how it works. So the patterns can be repetitive. One recruiter said to me, a lot of all the resumes coming in, they're all starting to look alike because they're all using AI to try and optimize it. And we tell our students to do that as well. Now, the recruiter has pros and cons with that. The pros is it's really easy for them to review a resume because they know exactly what to expect and it's easier to
Mhm.
scan it and figure it out. The
Yeah, and you just focus on differences.
but the con is it's harder to pull out the
The
differences
essence.
because it used to be somebody would submit a really crappy resume and they wouldn't even know any better, and you could probably weed that person out. Now that same person submits a stellar looking resume, and now you have to really pay attention to what's in the resume, and that's where if you talk, well, okay, let's talk about software engineers for a minute.
Mhm.
And for software
That's interesting.
engineers, the GPA is not all that in a bag of chips. Yes, the companies like OpenAI, the ones that are being very selective, they might use it as a filter. But really, initiative is the new GPA. Recruiters want to see that you're going outside of just doing your classwork, or even just doing research. They want to see you producing something. If you want to go into industry, you have to show that you can ship stuff. And the best way to do
100%.
that is to build an independent project, put it on GitHub. For those who don't know, that's like the e-portfolio for software engineers where they highlight all their work, and do things like open source contributions, and participate in hackathons. Multiple recruiters have told me this past year that they are honing in on how many hackathons a student does because it shows curiosity and initiative. They know that students are already busy, right? So they're taking time on a weekend to go do a hackathon. And even if they don't win something, it shows that they're willing to work with other people because typically you work on teams, right? And that's one of the core things that employers want to see is your ability to work on a team. So when a student asks me, gee, I don't know, should I take the time to drive 2 hours to go to this hackathon at this other university? Absolutely. Do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, fully like doubling down on that. A lot of the I kind of remember who it was exactly, but a couple of weeks back, I saw this startup founder saying that what he looks for in his own employees, even if it's not a software developer for his startup, is people that have taken the time to build something on their own.
Yes.
Um, I think it teaches you a lot about the systems that you need to have in place in order to do something, which it's very difficult to teach. It takes much longer to teach. Um, you can really work on fine tuning a person's focus, fine tuning what you want them to build. But an object in motion tends to stay in motion.
100%. Yeah.
And I mean, it applies to physics, but it also applies to human beings. Yesterday, I was on a walk and I thought about this concept on which, not super related to AI, but it was about like how maybe people, when they're young, people that tend to obsess about things, and maybe even people that tend to obsess about not the most healthy things, but that are able to drive themselves to limits in those behaviors. they tend to have higher likelihood for success than those people that are much more calm and measured. Even if you're flooring it to the wrong direction, you're already in motion. I
Yeah.
think it's much easier to grab a person that's able to put themselves in motion, even if it's the wrong direction, into the right direction, than someone that's just taking life lazily. I don't know if that makes sense. You mentioned there are a couple of things that would allow someone in software engineering to differentiate themselves from others. Do you have any insights for people outside of software engineering as to how they can differentiate themselves in the modern job market?
I think the things that I talked about, like independent projects and contributing to something in, software, it's open source. Um, so, and then hackathon. So you have to kind of translate that to what would work in, let's say, finance. Maybe there's a financial model that you worked on, and you could create an e-portfolio that shows your whole entire thought process on how you came up with that model, why it's important, where did you use AI to help you, how did it help, how did it not help, and just talk that through in the portfolio so that employers, recruiters can see that you've gotten your hands dirty outside the classroom, and you've learned new tools, and you show critical thinking. It could be the same thing for marketing. Marketing, I think, is pretty easy because you're creating a campaign. So that campaign should be in your e-portfolio. But again, you should have a homepage that describes it. Like, here's the summary. Because when recruiters are looking at things, they skim. They
Yeah.
rarely read very quickly. So anywhere you can put a summary, that's really important. But just to show your work, and maybe instead of open source, maybe you did work with a nonprofit and you did some volunteer work. Maybe you built a marketing campaign for a nonprofit and you didn't get paid for it. That's okay. It shows initiative, and you can show off the work that you did. Um,
It speaks a lot to you need to be able to enjoy it even if you're not being paid for it. It's this idea of
True. Like you
what
really
would you
want to do it.
what would you do if you had to do it for free?
Right.
Um, because a lot of people would never really do something like that. And I mean, we spoke about this a little bit last time we met, which is sometimes you need to start doing things for free, and that leads you to, in the medium term, get better. Once you get better, people begin to value what you're providing, the service you're providing, what you're helping them achieve. And eventually you're probably going to be so busy doing that sort of things that it becomes a business of its own, because you tell the people you support, well, I cannot really help you more with this, but if you pay me, I could.
Yeah. No, 100%. And the other thing, the other career that I wanted to call out was healthcare, because healthcare has chronic shortages. And I think that is an area where AI is actually going to have a very positive impact, where it's going to drive more jobs that are less manual. Like data entry is going to go, like transcribing for patients, patient records. A lot of
Pretty
that, I
big
think,
now.
it's going to go away, right? It's already happening. But you still need hands-on people for patient care. You need the nurses, you need the physician's assistants. Uh, and I think that if students are trying to decide, they're still not there yet, and they're trying to decide what should I major in? That's a hard question. Even before AI came along, that was a hard question. But number one, you should try and find something that interests you. I don't always like what you're passionate about, because maybe, you still have to make money too. So, and people say, well, if you find something you're passionate about, you'll eventually make money. Maybe, I don't know, but maybe your hobby is what you're passionate about, but it should be
Also,
something
it's
you're interested in.
yeah, and it's difficult to find what you're passionate about when you're young.
Ex-
I think
I know.
a lot of passions come from expertise. Mm, I played a lot of tennis when I was young, and I didn't like it when I first started to do so. But it's almost natural to become passionate about something you become good at. And the only thing to become good at something is by doing it again and again.
I couldn't do the job I'm doing now right out of college. I couldn't do it effectively. I bring 3 decades of experience from the tech industry working with these students, and I am a walking, living AI. Come and ask me about a tech career. But no, seriously, this is something I'm passionate about. I really enjoy mentoring students and working with them, but it was a journey to get here. So yeah, you're right. It's you when you're in college, you may not go right to the place that you are passionate about or you want to be in. It's a very non-linear journey a lot of times to get there. Uh, but the other thing that I get asked about is, what about the trades? Should I be doing things like being a plumber or an electrician?
Hmm.
Because that's something that currently the robotics are not quite there yet. Maybe someday that will catch up. But so as I understand it, I did a little bit of research before this, so I'm not an expert in the trades, but um, electricians can make up to $100,000 a year once they go through the apprentice stage. And plumbers, that's very recession proof, right? You're always going to need a plumber.
Yeah.
There's a huge shortage in the US of plumbers and welders. Like the US shipbuilding industry is really hurting right now because there's not enough welders to solve the
I
problem.
didn't know.
So, you know, you can't fix a leaking pipe, wire a panel, or comfort a patient through a screen, right?
Yeah.
Anything that needs physical presence, the manual dexterity, and real-time judgment, you need the human being in the room. And that's the most durable work that's always going to be there. But here's the irony. The AI boom is building demand for electricians and HVAC techs because somebody has to build these data centers.
Yeah, and a lot of them are actually stalled, which is crazy.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I think it was Google that just put out a thing. They're going to support the creation of all these, HVAC type of roles, apprenticeships. They're going to fund a lot of it because they need them to build out these data centers that are going to become critical to the growth of AI.
We had this shift 20 years ago. The cool thing was being like, it started to be being in finance. Then it shifted to tech.
Yeah.
Now it's shifting to like maybe more of the startup world. Uh, is there any chance that maybe 20 years from now, the cool thing is to be a plumber? And uh, I don't know. I think it would be. I'm curious because it could be.
It could be. So we just had our water heater had a problem, and the plumber came over, and it's so the plumber we know, he's very good. His son came this time, and his son just dropped out of college to become a full-time plumber. So he had done some work with his dad. His dad wanted him to come into the plumbing business. He's, no, I want to go to college. And then he realized he missed the, getting your hands dirty, like getting in there and seeing something and fixing it and feeling it. And also you're working with customers. So you get to go to different people's houses and businesses. It's a very dynamic work day. You go to, you're out and about doing things. And he was saying how much he loves it. So
It's a rewarding job, I think. I every time I have a plumber or someone that does manual things come into my apartment, I'm like, wow, it's super super sick that they're able to do that. You know, I should be able to. Um, and yeah, I guess maybe in the future it's like the new finance bro is the plumber man.
who knows? And the other thing is, okay, so let's say you're a plumber, an electrician, you're apprenticing with someone, you're working for an owner of a small business, or you're working for a big company like doing ship welding. Um, but you can also go into business for yourself. Somebody's got to hire the plumbers, right? And so you might have your own plumbing business and you're hiring 10 plumbers to work for you. Now you need to understand business. Now you're a small business, right? So are you still hiring your operations person, your customer service people like these businesses used to? And a lot of them had started offshoring it, especially customer service and setting up appointments. And now the question is, can you just have an agent do it? And I guess it goes back to what you're saying, Nico. Hey, if my podcast keeps growing, I may not have to hire anybody. I could just have an agent do it. Now, again, would you miss something in the humanity of that?
Probably yes. I mean, in
You
the end,
know, you get kind of lonely if you're just by
yeah.
yourself. They're like all the plumbers are going out doing the work for you, and then you're sitting there going, "Well, what do I do?"
I mean, I don't know what's your stance on this, but I personally, I don't understand the people that don't go into work, you know? So I
Mm,
see all of these, in Amazon, they had the RTO recently, like
yeah.
1 year
Yep.
back, and all of these people began complaining. And from my experience, I don't know how I would work if I wasn't coming to the office every day. I think being able to interact with my colleagues every day is part of the fun of working for a big company.
I agree with you. But okay, I'll throw the "it depends" out there. I think when you're a new graduate, you definitely should be in an office because this is how you're going to meet people. When I had my first job out of college, I worked for a consulting firm. There's a bowling league, there was softball, there was happy hours. You got to know people and do things uh, by building relationships in the office and working on teams with people. So I think for young people, early career, being in the office is very helpful. As you get older and you start to have families and you have to go to kids' recitals and you're coaching your kids' soccer or football team, you need a lot more flexibility in your life, right?
Also, your human interaction is coming from elsewhere. It's
You
coming
are
from your own family.
100. That's right, 100% spot on. So I think there's some room for flexibility. I don't know that Amazon's 5 days a week is the right answer. I currently myself, I'm on campus 3 days a week, and I work from home 2 days a week. And for me, it's the right balance.
Yeah, it's a matter of giving people the choice as well. I I think it's okay to give people choices. I do think I'm actually reading right now I don't know if you've ever read the book The Paradox of Choice by Schwartz. I can't remember his first name.
Yeah, I have not.
Super interesting. So I can tell you a bit about the first few pages I've read. At least I'm still yet to go through
Yeah,
most of it. Super interesting text. He speaks about how if we take the following syllogism, which is more freedom gives me more choices mean more freedom means more happiness, therefore more choices means more happiness, we would assume that having a broader roster of things to choose from would be a better thing, right? Mm, and then he comes back to the idea of buying jeans. So he says when he used to buy jeans when he was a younger person, he would go to the store and there would be one fit, like
yeah,
the fit, you would just choose your waist size and that's what you went for. You didn't have much choice. If anything, maybe you had like 2 or 3 different types of fit to choose from. Nowadays, you go to a store and you have the skinny fit, slim fit, straight, athletic fit. You have 70 types of fits. Then you can choose like the color, if they're ripped, if they're not ripped. So the experience became so much more interesting and enriching for people. But then you get home and you're not as happy anymore with the jeans you chose because, oh, maybe those with the straight fit would have been a bit better for me.
all right.
Or the darker blue color could have
Yeah,
been more better on my skin tone. So it's this idea that sometimes having more choice instead of giving us more well-being reduces it. Of course, there's as in everything, it depends. There's some things on which you definitely want to have more choice, but some other things in which maybe less choice can have some benefits.
I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of humans enjoy using AI because they don't have to take time to make choices. The AI does it for them. There was a scene from the movie called The Hurt Locker, which was an American movie about the Iraq War. And a veteran comes back, and there's a scene with him standing in the cereal aisle. of a grocery store, and there's probably 100 different kinds of cereal, and he's just staring at them, because when he was in the war zone, everything was prescriptive. Like, here's your meal, and you didn't have to choose anything. Everything was taken care of for you, and he couldn't function. He just broke down because it was just too much. I think the where AI benefits humans, and I don't know if benefits is the right word, but where humans look to AI to make easier, faster decisions, it's because they don't want to deal with having to pick from 100 cereal boxes.
100%. I mean, you have no idea the amount of times I've had an email sit in my inbox for 3-4 days, and eventually I just tell my AI, draft an answer. It drafts the answer. I edit it, and it's something I should have done from day one. Just rely on it, because sometimes you just don't even know where to start to answer an email
Yeah.
or begin a project. So it gives a very, maybe not very good, um, but it gives you a starting point instead of you having to go through the friction of beginning, right?
Yeah. I
It
think
has its
starting
benefits.
points, yeah, starting point is the right way to put it. And to do drafts and outlines, if you're stuck, it really helps to brainstorm with an AI. And
But it's dangerous,
it
because
can be, yeah.
at what point are we just using it to have all the ideas,
Is it
and
groupthink, right? It becomes groupthink.
we stop having the critical thinking. We
Yeah.
stop questioning things. And yeah, I think it has, I don't think in a utopian sense has its dangers. I just think the people that are able to, regardless of having the tool there, decide not to use it because of a particular reason, are the people that will differentiate themselves in the job market, will
Yeah.
differentiate themselves, and make themselves, like, set themselves apart from the herd.
From the herd, that's a good way to put it. This is where I think some more, this is almost, it gets into philosophy, where you're real, is this right for humanity? And there's, of course, questions about the environment and how much energy and water and everything that the data centers use. Those are things that need to be considered. And there's plenty of rhetoric on both, from people talking about both sides out there. Again, it's like, I don't know who to believe. And then you ask Claude, and they're like, well, that's probably not the right thing to do. I don't know. Because these models, one of the big concerns is they have bias in them, right?
100%.
And I don't think that's been really thought through yet, is how do you classify bias in a model? If you use, and if you go into Claude now, it used to be you could do what was it, the Fable model they just released, until the US government said, nope, can't do that anymore. So they shut
It
that
was a
down.
fable.
Yeah, Fable, yeah. But if you look, there's still, I don't know, 6 or 7 choices, and then you have high, medium, low, or even more choices for each of the models. Yeah, again, I don't think people want those choices. All I want to do is press a button. Like, I don't have to think about, do I want this to be low to save my tokens so I don't use up all my resources and
Or
then
my
have to pay
context
more?
window.
Yes, that's right. Oh, I need a new context window, right? So I got to start a new thread. These are things that are becoming more well known, that there's limitations to this. It's not just AGI. It's not, you just talk to Hal, like in, the movie 2001, where you have this artificial general intelligence that just knows everything. You still have to make choices on how to use this tool. And right now, students aren't being trained very well at universities how to do this. Universities need to step up and figure out how to bake this into their curriculum. You can't ignore it. Students are going to use it anyway. So it's hard. It's not, I actually sit on the computer science department working group where we're trying to come up with baseline AI assisted software engineering for freshmen that come in. And it's not easy. It's like, what topics do you actually cover? Do you talk about ethics? Do you talk about economics? Like, there's so much to cover. The universities are struggling, I think, with how to do
It's a
this.
difficult question.
Yeah.
It's a difficult task. Um, if I was to do a master's degree, of course, interest is relevant. We spoke about that
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
What would you suggest I do it on if I told you I'm interested about everything, let's say?
Philosophy. I say that in somewhat jest because the humanities are going to be where it's at. It's going to come back around to the humanities because employers are looking for not just a critical thinking, right? There's more to it than that. There's how to build relationships with customers. And a customer could be your patient, right? It could be someone at the grocery store. Maybe someday AI will will they really be building relationships with customers? And what does that even mean? I don't know. I don't think I
I
like
don't want
that.
I don't want that. No, I was
Yeah.
speaking about it with someone. I was telling them that I mean, the tip culture in the US is crazy. Uh, and the inflation of tips in the US is just an
Yeah.
indication of what's going to be the best paid career in 10 years time, which is going to be being a server because it's going to be the type of thing that you can probably have a robot serve the food anyways. So the people who serve the food, human beings, are going to be working only in the most high-end restaurants, and they're going to be trained meticulously as to what is the thing that the customer wants to hear and
Mhm.
how to have that customer relation. And then you're just going to give them a very, very fat tip at the end of your meal, and they're going to be very happy, right? And the tip is going to be almost fully for them because in the kitchen, you're going to have a robot cooking your food anyways, right? Um, so yeah, I think all of those service oriented human to human interaction, that's where it's going to go at as well. I agree.
Yeah. Yeah. I went and had Korean barbecue the other day and a robot served me my food. So he's playing some cool K-pop music, but it's still
It was
was
not the best experience. It was maybe great food, but
it,
it takes away a human aspect to it, which is
it
beautiful.
it does. It's neat at first, like the first time you see it, it's like, oh, look at that! Here comes a robot. That's cool. And it's like, oh, how do I talk to it? And how do I, And it like actually banged into the table, and like, I'm sure things will get better. But anyway, back to your master's degree question. You need to think about what door are you trying to open at the end of your master's degree, and work backwards from that. Figure out what door to some particular career, and then talk to people that are in that career. We didn't talk a lot about networking. And that is, we call them curiosity conversations, because if you reach out to somebody and say, hey, I am interested in your career trajectory, I'm fascinated by what you've accomplished, people typically like to talk about themselves. It's just a matter of getting their time. And if you reach out to someone you have a common thread with, like someone that's an alumni from your university, or you grew up in the same hometown, or you happen to know a common person, that's going to open up the door for those conversations. And then we provide our students with scripts. Like, these are the things that you want to cover in these conversations. Because I have found students are terrified of these conversations,
Yeah, it's nerve wracking.
and you're talking to someone that might 10 years older than you. They're so accomplished, and you've got maybe 20 minutes to talk to them. And it's hard. And I think it's a bit of a cliche, but most of the engineers are more introverted. And I see that in working with them. And it's just harder for them to have this conversation. So we just break it down for them. And you want the person you're speaking to do the talking. You
Mhm.
want to ask them open-ended questions about, how did you end up in this role? What would you have done differently if you were back in college to better prepare you for this career? And let them talk about these things. And through that talking, you're building a relationship. Maybe they're not going to refer you to a job right away, but they'll remember you, and they could become a mentor, someone you could reach back out to. But this is how you open doors. And you could use this when you're trying to figure out, what am I going to major in, or what master's degree. Talk to people that are in that field, that are doing this every day. If you can, shadow somebody. In life design, we talk about prototyping because it's based on product design. And you prototype in product design. Well, if you're looking at designing your life, you should prototype. Try different things that you can play with and then move on to something else until you decide what you're really interested in.
Yeah. It's interesting how you framed it because the third episode I ever recorded for the podcast is with a good friend of mine. His name is Jared, CEO of an AI startup in New York, sales, um, super interesting guy. And he once had an article written on him about how he cold emailed the CEOs of a lot of Fortune 500 companies. And he used the exact same framework you just mentioned, cold email someone, tell them like, hey, I look up to you because of this, this, and this. I would really appreciate if you would give me X amount of time, hopefully not more than half an hour. Uh, and and people are more open to this type of things that anyone ever believes. I mean, I'm doing this kind of as a second job, which is reaching out to people that I admire, reaching out to people that I've never met. That's how I met you.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah,
mean,
exactly.
I'm very happy to have met you. I feel like I have a somewhat of a mentor, someone that I can reach back out to. Hopefully we can get to do this again sometime in the future. I'm enjoying the conversation a lot. Um, so yeah, I think people should be a bit more. Uh, they should challenge their belief of why would this person speak to me.
Yeah. And that's true. And I just did a workshop with students last night, and it's a workshop for students who are doing internships for the summer, and we're helping them get the most out of their internships. And uh, they were sharing out things that they're struggling with, like things like, I don't know when to use AI in my job. It's not clear to me. Is it okay to use it? Should I use it secretly? Should I talk to my manager about it? Like, they struggle with these conversations. And I said that, and you notice a lot of you are saying the same things. You're all networked together. You're all students at Hopkins. Why wouldn't you reach out to someone that, you all have each other's emails? Reach out to someone that you heard a story and say, what, I am struggling with the same thing. Let's talk about it. And, I see them kind of nodding their heads and smiling. It's like, I know you're not going to do it, but you should. You should reach out to these people, because that's how relationships start. And you're going to learn from these folks, and they're going to go get jobs, and they're going to build companies. And someday they're going to come back to you and say, hey, I remember working with you in that workshop, that summer workshop, and we actually have something I think would be a great fit for you. That's how
Mhm.
you build your network.
Yeah, there's this quote that you can use on your students, maybe, that I really love. It's from Kate Hall, and it goes, ask for things that feel unreasonable to make sure your intuitions about what's reasonable are accurate.
That's right.
Of course, try not to be a jerk in the process. If you're only asking for things you get, you're not aiming high enough.
100%. I think that is definitely true. And look, uh, the students go to Hopkins, these are elite students. It's very hard to get into Hopkins. Most of
I'm
them
aware.
were valedictorians, and they're very smart, impressive students. But I work with students from all different types of universities. I do a lot of volunteer work and mentoring. And I tell them, like, you believe me, you have networks, and I'm going to help you find them, because you have to start somewhere. And especially even if you're going to community college, which is here in the States, that's probably the most affordable college you can go to. As you know, a lot of the universities in Europe, they're not going to cost you very much. So it's maybe a different story. But here in the US, if you go to community college, typically you go for 2 years and then you transfer and go to a bigger college. But those folks that are in those community college classes with you, they're coming with probably the same struggles that you're coming with, and a lot of similar experiences. That's where you start building your network, because they're going to be getting an internship next summer, and they're going to say, hey, I found this. And they might tell their manager, you need to talk to so-and-so, because I had class with him. We did a class project together, and he was amazing.
Hmm. That's true. Yeah. Relationships are what the world's built upon.
That is true. That is true. I hope that never changes.
I hope so too. With AI, hopefully, definitely
Yes.
not. Well, Eric, I really appreciate your time.
Yeah.
Thanks for taking the time to record this, for giving me your thoughts, your opinions, some very actionable advice for both myself and the people struggling or thinking about these type of things nowadays. Um, is
Yeah,
there anywhere people can kind of look for your work if they're interested in I don't know.
the best place to find me is on LinkedIn. And if you just search for Eric Spiegel Hopkins, you'll find me. And you can follow me. I post stuff all the time with regards to AI and the impact on early careers. That's how you found me. And I would love to hear from you.
Thanks, Eric.
Thank you.